this is about the Congo. And I've been hearing about the Congo since I was a small boy right up to the present time. There's never been peace in the Congo, mainly because the big wigs won't tell you that the Congo is one of the richest areas for certain minerals, but highly rich in uranium. Highly rich in uranium. That's why they keep them at war all the time over there, killing each other off. So the big mining companies, the international boys, can get in and loot the place for free, while they're all fighting each other. That's why it's been going on so long there. But they never mention that, the uranium, in any of the articles, including this one. And this is from the Associated Press. Of course, the press isn't there to tell you all this. The press gives you the story by always leaving half of the rest of it out, so you'll come to the desired but wrong conclusion. It says, Congo rapes. A Congolese woman walks down the main road of a village in which hundreds of women and children were raped earlier this year. It says the UN-backed Congolese troops have been accused of murdering and raping villagers and looting homes in the area in which rebel militias carried out mass rapes 2 months ago. They go back and forth just raping the UN troops and these other Congolese troops. The UN, it's amazing. The UN, wherever they've gone, they've set up prostitution rings. They've even imported females from different countries into countries like Britain through incredibly well-devised pipelines, and basically they're just sex slaves for pimps. Wherever they've gone, they've done this kind of stuff. There's so many reports, it's unbelievable. But there again, it's not really if you understand what militaries are really all about. And it says Margot Wallström, the UN envoy on sexual violence and conflict, told the Security Council yesterday that the UN peacekeepers had received reports of serious abuses by Congolese government soldiers. In August, details emerged of the mass rape of more than 300 women, several men and children in the Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo. The UN, which is a base 20 miles from the scene of the attacks, admitted failing to protect the victims. It's just like Rwanda. They get told, the general who was stuck in Rwanda was from Canada. And the man eventually, when he came home, had a nervous breakdown, complete collapse and he still couldn't figure out, he still doesn't to this day figure out that the United Nations would not send them supporting troops. He couldn't figure out why. Because he doesn't know that the UN has another agenda altogether to allow these mass cults to happen. And now he's on a private civilian board advising the UN. Because he still can't get through, he can't get through his head. But he was blaming himself initially in Rwanda. For what? Because they kept ignoring all of his calls over months and months, saying they knew the attack was coming and a mass slaughter was coming. They were even presented with the attack orders, where they came from, who had armed these guys. It was a French group who armed them. All the data was in, but the UN didn't, no, leave them alone, just stay out of it, So he had a nervous breakdown afterwards, and then they brought him back into the fold by putting him on an advisory committee. And he still will never get through his head that there's another, because they can't. They can't believe that all their life they've been working for something that has ulterior motives than the ones that's brainwashed into them. Anyway, back to the Congo. It says it now faces further embarrassment because it provides a logistical support to the Congolese army, that's the UN army, which stands accused of compounding terror inflicted by the Rwandan-led FDLR rebels and the Congolese Mai Mai militia. Wallström, who visited Congo last week, said she heard directly from villagers and UN peacekeepers in the area in which killings, rapes and lootings were recently carried out by government soldiers. She urged the Congolese government to investigate the attacks and swiftly hold any perpetrators to account. The possibility that the same communities that were brutalized by the FDLR and Mai Mai elements in July and August are now also suffering exactions in the hands of government troops is unimaginable and unacceptable, she said. So, that's the kind of stuff really that happens when the UN's in there. If there's another reason for this going on, it will then, and believe you me, it's uranium there. The big mining corporations are in there big time. And if there's a stable government there, they could demand big fees, massive fees for these guys to be in there and mining. But that's not the way when they end up having pell-mell civil wars and that going on. So they start the civil wars and they arm the rebel troops. That's how they do it. They did the same thing in Sierra Leone quite a few years back. The big gold and silver, diamond guys in London were interviewed on a report. asking why they'd sent mercenaries in to start a war. And he said they couldn't get into certain areas to mine. So they got them all fighting each other, and they sent in the mercenary troops to get it all started. And then they just moved in behind the troops and set up their mines and got it all for free. And they interviewed the guy in the London diamond office that talked about it. He was interviewed the top CEO. And he literally laughed in astonishment when he was asked, "What, did you see anything wrong with this, doing this kind of thing?" He said, "Well, this is standard." He says, "They're sitting on all those diamonds and they're doing nothing with it." And he laughed like, how preposterous a question. And that's the egotist and the psychopath you're dealing with. And all you ladies out there who love the big diamonds and so on, you should go into the history of how much blood is spilled to get them. And the ones who really profit off them. And where that money goes to. For your little sparkling trinkets. It's disgusting what they do for diamonds. Disgusting.